Tonight on KPBS Evening Edition, the public is let in on the process as historic impeachment hearings begin.
Must we simply get over it? Is this what Americans should now expect from their president?
The takeaways from day one and what President Trump is saying tonight. Also ahead, new details on how a freshman at SDSU died after attending a fraternity event. Now the university is taking a closer look at student safety. And North County has been slow to get into the marijuana business. KPBS checks in on some of the first companies to open.
We've got 1 year to up the tree canopy by 2%. That's a huge feat.
More trees for San Diego, how this growing project fits into the city's larger climate goals. KPBS Evening Edition starts now. Good evening. It's Wednesday, November 13th. Thanks for joining us tonight. I'm Maya Trabulsi. It started with one phone call, and now there's another. With the nation watching, America's top diplomat to Ukraine told Congress about President Trump's repeated requests for Ukraine to investigate the Biden family.
Following that meeting, in the presence of my staff at a restaurant, Ambassador Sondland called President Trump and told him of his meetings in Kyiv. The member of my staff could hear President Trump on the phone asking Ambassador Sondland about the investigations. Ambassador Sondland told President Trump the Ukrainians were ready to move forward. Following the call with President Trump, the member of my staff asked Ambassador Sondland what President Trump thought about Ukraine. Ambassador Sondland responded that President Trump cares more about the investigations of Biden, which Giuliani was pressing for.
That was at the start of what turned into a full day of testimony. Republicans are claiming much of it is hearsay, and President Trump says he is not even watching. More now from Mary Maloney.
Dramatic testimony about alleged corruption moved the impeachment inquiry into President Trump beyond the shadows of closed-door hearings and into the public eye.
I discovered a weird combination of encouraging, confusing, and ultimately alarming circumstances.
Bill Taylor, the top U.S. diplomat in Ukraine, told Congress President Trump leveraged key aid and a White House visit for Ukraine to investigate Joe Biden and his son.
I think it's crazy to withhold security assistance for help with a political campaign.
After President Trump and the president of Ukraine spoke in July, Taylor said President Trump had a conversation with the U.S. ambassador to the European Union, Gordon Sondland. Taylor testified one of his aides asked Sondland what the president thought of Ukraine.
Ambassador Sondland responded that President Trump cares more about the investigations of Biden.
Democrats want to prove President Trump abused the power of his office.
The questions presented by this impeachment inquiry are whether President Trump sought to exploit that ally's vulnerability and invite Ukraine's interference in our elections.
Republicans describe the allegations as hearsay. They argue since Ukraine didn't launch investigations and eventually received funding, the administration did nothing wrong.
I think this is a sad chapter for the country, but frankly, a good day for the facts and a good day for the President of the United States.
While the president blames Democrats for playing politics.
There was no quid pro quo. Pure and simple.
In Washington, Mary Maloney, KPBS News.
And here's more from the president this afternoon. This is what he had to say about the whistleblower who set this into motion. That person's identity has not been revealed.
I want to find out who is the whistleblower, because the whistleblower gave a lot of very incorrect information, including my call with the president of Ukraine, which was a perfect call and highly appropriate. And he wrote something that was much different than the fact.
And when the impeachment hearings resume on Friday, KPBS will once again have live coverage on all of our platforms. That's our sister channel, KPBS 2, KPBS Radio, and KPBS.org. Vice President Mike Pence is on a two-day visit to California to support Donald Trump and a tour of NASA facility. He took part in two Trump victory events today, a luncheon in Huntington Beach and a reception in Monterey. No media was allowed. Tomorrow, the VP will take a tour of NASA's Ames Research Center in Silicon Valley. It will play a role in plans to return astronauts to the moon by the year 2024. Here in San Diego, new details on the death of a student at SDSU, and now the university is escalating its response after suspending all fraternities. KPBS education reporter Joe Hong is live at SDSU with the new developments. Joe?
Maya, the San Diego County Medical Examiner announced Tuesday that 19-year-old Dylan Hernandez died of a blunt force injury of the head. He was found unresponsive by his roommates early Thursday morning and was transported to Alvarado Hospital, where he was pronounced dead on Friday. It's reported that Hernandez attended a fraternity event Wednesday night. It remains unclear, however, as to whether alcohol was involved in his death. An investigation by campus police is ongoing. Meanwhile, the university took swift action against fraternities on campus. SDSU suspended 14 Greek organizations after 19-year-old Dylan Hernandez died after attending a fraternity party. Bob Ottley is an education lawyer in San Diego who provides legal services to fraternities. He said the university needs to have more surveillance and security at SDSU-affiliated Greek organizations to prevent underage drinking.
Well, if we've determined it's not safe, and we know the university has a rule prohibiting underage drinking, so the university will say, we've already enacted a rule, then you have to enforce it.
Ottley said his own fraternity at Stanford University recently banned alcohol in 2012, which reduced incidents of injury almost immediately. He said tighter enforcements would help fraternities go back to what they were intended to be, leadership and service organizations. SDSU President Adela De La Torre has declined to be interviewed on camera, but she announced on Tuesday that the university is forming 2 task forces to address alcohol and substance abuse as well as student health. These groups will report their findings and recommendations in 2020. Maya, back to you.
Thanks for that report, Joe. And workers walked a picket line outside the UC San Diego Medical Center today. Union medical workers have been negotiating a contract for 2 years. They're upset over outsourcing and what they call unfair labor practices.
It's very easy to outsource our job. There are registry out there, there are travelers out there. But then when you bring them in, it's cheaper for the university to do that, but you also bring down that, quality of care.
The group is part of the same union that represents 25,000 workers at UC campuses statewide. University officials said in a statement that they are doing everything possible to limit the impact of the strike. They say patient care is their top priority. Faculty and staff at Palomar College are rallying for new leadership. Last night, dozens were at a Board of Governors meeting calling for the removal of current school president Joy Lynn Blake. An analysis of the school's finances found it as high risk of insolvency. About 90% of employees in a no-confidence vote said she's no longer fit to lead the college. We asked President Blake about the vote last night.
I'm a former academic senate president, and so I understand. The Constitution allows us freedom of speech and freedom of expression, so all voices can be heard. So that's academia, and that's our society, and that's good.
And then do you plan to resign your position here?
No, I haven't been asked to.
A faculty representative says the president is mincing words. They're asking her to leave her position. Now Blake's future lies in the hands of the Palomar College Board. San Diego could have to cut spending by nearly $84 million next year. That's the prognosis in a new report on the city's financial outlook. Deficits are projected for the next 4 fiscal years, each of which begins on July 1st. San Diego has a growing economy and is taking in more money in taxes and fees each year. But spending is going up faster due to things like new homeless services and programs and raises for city workers, especially police officers. At a committee meeting today, City Councilwoman Barbara Bree laid the blame squarely on Mayor Kevin Faulconer, saying the outlook was sobering.
It projects 4 straight years of deficits. It relies on one-time revenue resources to balance these budgets, leading us straight into a structural deficit. This mayor inherited a balanced budget in 2013, yet will leave a structural deficit behind us as his legacy.
Mayor Faulconer's office did not respond to a request for comment. The mayor has until April to propose a budget that closes the deficit. A live 24-hour view of the border wall. The Washington Post reports a White House senior advisor floated the idea. Jared Kushner's plan would reportedly carry a live stream of wall construction. Part of the reason would be to push away criticism that the president isn't delivering on a campaign promise. The Washington Post reports the Army Corps of Engineers is opposed because it could reveal proprietary techniques. For those seeking asylum at the border, it's a ruling that could have huge implications. KPBS reporter Max Rivlin-Nadler tells how a judge is ordering legal access for a family that was told to remain in Mexico.
The ruling by U.S. District Court Judge Dana Sabra came as a result of a lawsuit filed last Tuesday by the ACLU of San Diego and Imperial counties. The class action lawsuit alleged that the family was denied access to lawyers during interviews that asylum officers used to determine whether they could be safely returned to Mexico. After expressing fear in court, asylum seekers are taken to Border Patrol stations where they are interviewed about their fear. The government has argued that it wouldn't be logistically feasible to give migrants access to attorneys before and during these interviews. But Monica Langarica, an attorney for the ACLU, says it's their right.
The government has elected to hold people in these facilities while they're waiting for the interviews. All of these sort of logistical constraints that the government argues prevents it from abiding by constitutionally and federal law mandated rights are problems of its own making.
The Guatemalan family claims that they were beaten by Mexican federal police after being sent back to Mexico. The ruling only applies to this family, but a hearing is set for next month on whether it will be applied to all asylum seekers along the California-Mexico border and perhaps the entire U.S.-Mexico border. This afternoon, lawyers for the family asked Judge Sabra to hold CBP in contempt. They say the agency still had not let them meet with their clients, who are currently being held in a Border Patrol station in Chula Vista. Max Rivlin-Nadler, KPBS News.
The power outages that hit millions of Californians last month are getting a closer look. The California Public Utilities Commission says it will open a formal investigation. The outages were intended to reduce the risk of wildfires, but there were complaints over communication to affected areas. Most outages were in Northern California, but SDG&E also enacted some outages in East County. More cannabis dispensaries are coming to North County. In the last month, 2 have opened in Vista, with more on the way. KPBS reporter Matt Hoffman went to Vista to see how the new shops are doing.
Open concept store, like an Apple store, for example, so you can come right in, check out everything yourself.
Mary Boyd is the manager of Tradecraft Farms in Vista.
So on these ones here, it's kind of cool because you can just open it up and you can sniff it.
This is the first legal medical marijuana shop in the city, and sales are growing.
More and more every day keep coming in.
Like most North County cities, Vista was reluctant to opening dispensaries, but a citizens' initiative last year forced them to allow the shops. As one of the only legal dispensaries in the area, Tradecraft Farms benefits from a large customer base.
A lot of people coming from Encinitas, Oceanside, Leucadia, Carlsbad, a bunch from Escondido.
After a month of being in business, some items are selling more than others.
Our top seller would definitely be flower, then followed by concentrates. One of the biggest sellers right now we've been noticing would definitely be the Chiba Chews here in the Green Hornets.
Down the street is Flora Verde, which is owned and operated by 2 cousins.
This is new for me. I did explosives and weapons in the Marine Corps for 22 years. We didn't know how it would be taken, given the former stigma, if you will, but they've embraced us here in the city.
The shop is also seeing its sales increasing.
It started off a little slow, and it's been picking up steadily every week.
Illegal operators are still hurting both businesses in Vista.
2 major challenges we've had. One is competing with the black market.
They generate extreme amount of clients. They don't have taxing.
Some people are reluctant to sign up for medical marijuana cards and are instead going to the illegal shops. But the stores say there is peace of mind going to a legal shop, even if you have to pay a little bit more.
Safe, and it's been tested over and over again, whereas you don't know what you're going to get, if you go down the street to an illegal shop.
Expect more medical marijuana shops in Vista soon. The Citizens Initiative allows for up to 11 of them. Matt Hoffman, KPBS News.
I'm Judy Woodruff. Tonight on the NewsHour, a historic day, full analysis of the first public impeachment hearing. Coming up at 7 after Evening Edition on KPBS.
And if you're missing the warm weather, don't worry. Some parts of San Diego might get a bit warmer later this week. Dajia Swad has our forecast.
Much of this week we've been on the dry side, and that's going to continue to be the case for tonight in terms of precipitation. However, our high pressure that was keeping things dry begins to break down, and by tomorrow and Friday, we're noticing more clouds, a deeper marine layer, and cooler conditions. Dropping down to 58 degrees here tonight in San Diego, low 51 in Oceanside, and clouds extending not only into the coast, but as you make your way into Borrego Springs, your overnight low at 53. Also seeing cloud cover into Mount Laguna with an overnight low at 45. Making your move into Thursday, we are a bit on the warm side across portions of South California, moving into Arizona, but temperatures are going to be trending a tad bit cooler as we do notice a more onshore flow with our trough building in. We're looking at a high of 71 in Oceanside, lower 70s as well for San Diego, topping off at 84 in Borrego Springs and 65 in Mount Laguna, and a mainly dry day. Then Saturday comes around and we see a completely different forecast compared to that Thursday and Friday time frame. We get a more offshore flow. That means increased fire danger potentially because of very low humidity, dry vegetation, and once again that gusty offshore flow. Temperatures rising with that offshore flow into the extended forecast. So for tomorrow and Friday, clouds building in, low clouds as that marine layer keeps itself very present. Then we'll see that change up as we head into your Saturday, Sunday, as well as Monday. And notice for the end of the weekend and Monday, temperatures in the lower 80s. We'll continue to see that temperature trend as well as you head into the inland areas. Sunday, inland areas in the upper 80s, definitely feeling that warmth. We'll remain not so hot here in the mountains, mid 60s on Sunday, Monday, a high of 67. But if you're in the deserts, you'll feel some of that heat Saturday with a high of 87. Remaining dry. Reporting for KPBS News, I'm your meteorologist, Dajia Swad. Back to you.
An ambitious effort to boost the number and size of trees in the city of San Diego faces a difficult timetable. KPBS reporter Eric Anderson says the city's climate action plan hopes to soften the impact of climate change by tripling the city's tree canopy.
With a water hose.
Landscaper Narciso Gonzalez unwinds the hose attached to a tank in the back of his white pickup truck. He's in this mid-city neighborhood to water dozens of young trees planted here 3 years ago.
Okay, I'm gonna water this bag to keep the water for like season like drip.
The hose goes into the green bag wrapped around the base of the tree. That bag can be filled in minutes, but it takes hours to drain. It allows the fledgling tree a chance to soak up the water before it runs off. Gonzalez delivered water every week the first year after trees were planted here.
On the second year, twice a month. And this year, it's once a month.
Although he does make extra stops during the hottest part of the year. These young trees are part of a CAL FIRE grant to the city of San Diego, a welcome present for the city's official forester, Brian Widnar. He's in charge of managing the city's urban forest, and he says more new trees are on the way.
We're planning to put in about 1,100 street trees this calendar year, and then in addition to that, up to 400 additional trees in park locations.
The young trees are an important step toward broadening the urban tree canopy, but Widnar says success won't be reached by adding just small new trees. He also wants to see existing trees get bigger.
Focus in more on our existing large trees to protect them, maintain them better. We did some analysis of our tree canopy cover back in 2015, so we know what areas of the city might need additional tree planting or additional tree maintenance in order to help us get to that goal.
Widnar has the daunting task of tripling the city's tree canopy in just over a decade. That's important because trees pull carbon out of the air, they cool the urban landscape, and they filter pollution. Trees are also a significant part of the city's plan to reduce the impact of greenhouse gases, and that's why there's a push for more.
So to get from 13 to 35%, yes, it's going to be very challenging. I think that we could do it, but again, we have to be able to focus in on the resources that we think are important and able to get to that goal.
So what does a 35% tree canopy look like? Well, it looks a lot like Balboa Park, which has more than 15,000 trees. But not every city neighborhood enjoys that same environmental benefit. Sophie Wolfram works with the Climate Action Campaign. She's standing on University Avenue in City Heights.
We're looking toward the I-15, and you can see that there is kind of a smattering of trees here and there. And this is where we have the potential to invest in taking care of our existing canopy.
The street has one of the city's busiest bus routes, and she says it's a prime location for both more young trees and bigger older ones. She says using trees to cool this urban heat island will benefit a community that already faces economic challenges. And Wolfram says the clock is ticking.
We've got 1 year to up the tree canopy by 2%. That's a huge feat. And then we have until 2035 to nearly triple the tree canopy or the urban forest in San Diego. So it's going to be a big task.
And she says the only way the city can keep up is to hire extra staff.
We need staff resources just to take care of the existing trees that we have. That's the best and fastest way to grow the canopy. And then we need to plant probably hundreds of thousands, if not more, trees to hit our target.
Wolfram says San Diego hasn't made that commitment yet, and she is sure those aggressive climate goals will be unattainable without it. She says San Diego will have to show some political will, or the climate goals the city set for itself will go unrealized. Eric Anderson, KPBS News.
This story and others come from the KPBS Climate Change Desk. You can find them anytime at kpbs.org. The San Diego Unified School District will join Los Angeles Unified in a class action lawsuit against e-cigarette producer Juul. The Board of Education voted 5-0 in favor of joining the suit in a closed session meeting Tuesday evening. Superintendent Cindy Martin last week called for the district to join the LAA case. San Diego Unified, however, has yet to formally file a suit against the e-cigarette maker. On Veterans Day, did you thank a veteran? After all, Veterans Day is a day to reflect on the service of the military, but a new campaign is asking people to rethink that. Earlier today, I spoke with KPBS's Taryn Mento about going beyond the thank you. Taryn, thank you for being here.
Thanks, Maya.
Now, this campaign is called Beyond the Thank You. Tell us what that means.
So the goal is to encourage the public to do more than just say thank you to service members. The campaign comes from the Cohen Veterans Network. They have mental health clinics across the country, including one here in San Diego. And they surveyed about 200 current and former service members and asked them how they felt when the public said, you know, thank you for your service. And about half of them said that they were really uncomfortable when they heard that. And 58% said that they wished the public would actually put some action behind that thank you, such as donating or volunteering at a veteran serving organization.
And the national campaign, it actually features local veterans. Tell us how they're a part of this.
So they were interviewed at the local Cohen facility here in San Diego, and they were actually interviewed by family members or friends or other veterans. And the topic of conversation was, how do you like to be thanked for your service? And some really appreciated it, said it was very humbling. One person, though, said that they really disliked it because they had a very negative experience in the military. Another person said they just kind of felt awkward about it because they looked at the military as a job. But one person did say that, again, they wanted the public to put some action behind this and suggested volunteering at your local VA. But the other part of the conversation was about the difficulties transitioning from military to civilian life.
And we'll actually be hearing samples of those conversations this week. But tell us about who we're going to be hearing from tonight.
So we're hearing from tonight from Priscilla Rodriguez. She was a Marine, and then she transitioned into the reserves, and she's interviewed by her cousin, who's also a veteran but served in the Navy.
But the biggest challenge was that nothing prepares you for the loss of identity. A Marine is a Marine. But when you take that uniform off, it makes you second guess yourself. You don't have the camaraderie. And I was back home with my family, and they support me. But there were so many aspects of my life that they just didn't understand.
Yeah, I do miss the camaraderie. I do miss the friends. I mean, I still keep in touch with some. What advice do you have for others transitioning out of the military to the civilian sector?
Consider the lifestyle that you're used to. Are you going to move somewhere where you have people who identify with you and can support you? When you transition out, you have to be able to advocate for yourself, for your health care, and seeking a new career. I was fortunate to find work in the veteran space, and really that's when that sense of service came full circle for me. I like to feel connected to the mission, whatever that mission is. And now it's just taking care of other veterans like myself.
It's really good to hear from that perspective. Tell us who we'll be hearing from this week.
We're also going to be hearing from an Army veteran who discusses struggles with addiction, and we're going to be hearing from a Navy veteran who's interviewed by her children, a 10-year-old and an 11-year-old.
And we're going to have those stories tomorrow night and Friday. Taryn Mento, thank you so much for joining me.
Thanks, Maya.
Local skateboarder and entrepreneur Tony Hawk will be inducted into the California Hall of Fame. He'll be joined by soccer player and two-time World Cup champion Brandi Chastain, actor and comedian George Lopez, and the late author Maya Angelou. That's among others. Governor Newsom says the inductees, quote, embody California's innovative spirit. And before we go tonight, a look at the newest member of San Diego Zoo's Safari Park. This video of a young Machis tree kangaroo emerging from its mother's pouch. The joey doesn't have a name yet. His mother, who's named Polly, gave birth 7 months ago. But during that time, the joey stays inside the pouch. The kangaroos are part of a threatened species that arrived at the Safari Park last year. How sweet. You can find tonight's stories on our website, kpbs.org/evening edition. From all of us here at KPBS, thanks for joining us and have a great evening.